the AllThingsXR podcast, where you can get the best AR/VR analyzers from the biggest names in the field. Hi everyone, welcome to the AllThingsXR podcast. I'm Mojtaba. In today's episode, we talk about the state of avatars in AR and VR. Our special guest is Misha Leybovich, founder and CEO of Meograph. Hi Misha.
Hey, what's up, Mojtaba? How you doing?
Thanks, great. So, can you tell us more about yourself and your company, Meograph?
Sure. Well, so our company has been around for 6 years now. We've done a number of different things. It's all been in the space of kind of using video as a medium for expression, creativity, communication. So right now, Mio, our new technology and product, is like the fifth thing that we've built. There's been a number of things before that have all been increasingly successful. Our last product, Flippy, got several million users in 2016. And we then kind of built off that, took the technology further, adapted it for more of an AR environment, and now have something new. But it's all been a space of a lot of pivots, kind of typical startup journey, and I'm really excited about where we have ended up.
That's great. So avatars. Avatars are currently very hot and every big company wants to have some kind of them. Snapchat has
Sure.
Bitmoji, Apple has Animoji, Samsung introduced its own kind of Animojis in S9. Can you tell us why is that and why avatars matter?
Sure. Well, so look, AR, VR, mixed reality, any kind of like 3D environment, these are all very visual. I mean, they're inherently visual environments. And so it's different than today's, web and social and mobile environments, where when you interact with another person and you're in a visual environment, you need to look like something, just like in the real world, right? AR and VR, they're trying to more and more mimic and integrate with the real world. So when you're interacting with a real person in real life, usually you're not a disembodied voice or hiding behind a counter. You're visible. You're
Exactly.
right there. They can see you. And that's the same for mixed reality. And so you got to look like something. You have to have some visual representation of you. Now there's a lot of different ways to do it. You can look like a lot of different things, and not only different humanoid versions, but different fantastical things. You could look like a bouncing ball if you wanted to. I mean, like, you
Yeah.
you can look like anything, but by and large, I think most people, most of the time, are gonna want to look generally like themselves or like some kind of version of themselves. I'm sure most of your listeners have probably seen Ready Player One or
Yeah.
read the book. And when in the movie in particular, you look at the avatars there, and
Exactly.
sure, it's like different versions of the main characters, of like the real people, right? But like the expressions are all, you immediately recognize
Hmm.
who that person is based on the expression of the avatar, and what they're doing and how they carry themselves. So really it's, we need some sort of visual representation of ourselves in a digital world. And I think that's why not every product is going to need avatars, but like a lot of them are. If there's a thing where you're moving, a couch around your living room,
Yeah.
there's a product to do that. You probably don't need an avatar for that.
Hmm.
That's not the purpose, of that type of product. But anytime you're interacting with another person, you need to look like something.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
in terms of the word avatar, it's interesting. Like I'll tell you in a minute about kind of more details about what we do. But the word we use the word avatar, and we even use it in our marketing. But I think it's interesting about people's perceptions of that word. I think because of the experience we've had so far, people hear the word avatar and think of like almost an abstraction
Hmm.
of yourself. Like if it's like sort of a cartoon, it's like, sure, it's an avatar, it's not you, but it's like, it's some kind of like abstract version of you, like some kind of like representation of you. But not really you. So that's one thing that we are trying to change. We are trying to make an avatar like literally I guess go more towards the world of Ready Player One, really.
Yeah.
Make it more like it is you. It could be a different version of you, but the ground truth is based on your real face, your real micro expressions, like all the things that make you you. Those need to be rendered and carried out in your mixed reality avatar. Basically, people need to be able to look at your avatar, and without there being a little sign saying, "Oh, this is Moshaba," like to know it's you just by looking at it, just like in real life.
Yeah, exactly. And that's interesting for me that Mio has completely chose a different approach than the others, where other companies try to simulate users' faces, gestures, and emotions. Mio works with users' actual faces, at least in current version, and honestly, I think
Sure.
it can deliver way more than simulated avatars. Can you tell us more about your approach and why you think it works better than the others?
Absolutely. So, look, with all due respect to everybody else doing avatars, I think that the approaches that most people are taking are not going to work. And we have a very different approach, which either means that we are very right or we are very wrong. I'm not I'm not sure yet, but I know we're relatively alone in the approach we're taking. So let me explain it to you and the reason why I think it's going to work. Um, so almost every avatar you see on the market right now comes from one of two approaches. It comes from a kind of a cartoon approach,
Mm-hmm.
or it comes from a generate an avatar from a single photo, or maybe, or let's say not even a single photo. Let's say a single scan, or basically let's call it static media, where it's like media that's collected at one time and then generates something, but isn't live. We can use a single photo as the example since that's what most people are doing right now. So the cartoon one, that is Bitmoji, Facebook Spaces, VTime, like all of the kind of social VR things right now. Everything is cartoons, and I understand the reason why. Well, particularly they're trying to basically avoid the uncanny valley, right? I'm sure most of
Yeah.
your listeners are familiar with this, but just in case not, right? It's like when something looks like a person and but doesn't quite look like a person. There's something kind of wrong. It makes us feel really weird, and that's because there's huge parts of our brain dedicated to just like analyzing human faces. And when it's kind of off, it just like it throws things into haywire. We're like, ugh, I don't like it. It makes me feel weird, and it's no good. So a cartoon is a way to avoid that. It's fun, like the Bitmojis ones, like they're super fun. And those are even getting better. Like with the new Bitmoji release, a lot of different combinations, does a much better job of representing how someone looks, but still, like they're cartoons. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're not going to actually look the way that you look. And furthermore, like let's look ahead. 5 years, 10 years, people are using mixed reality all the time. Do we really believe that we're just going to be cartoon characters to each other?
No
Like
way.
that's hard for me to believe. Um, Another approach but cartoons will always have a place because there's definitely a lot of just like Just like we're able to make real life movies, right? But we still like animated, cartoon movies as well. Like it's
Yeah,
cool. There's
sure.
a place for it. It's just not going to be like the main thing. Um, Another approach that I see a lot of folks taking is turning a single photo into kind of rendering a 3D avatar from that.
Hmm.
And basically what they do there is they take a single photo or a single scan or maybe even a few photos, like doesn't really matter. They figure out the shape of the face from that. That's pretty easy at this point, to figure out the 3D shape of a human face based on a photo. They then texture that model with kind of the photo in the first place. Then they do some kind of blending around the edges. They do some other like processing to kind of make it fit. And then they generally rig the face to where they kind of simulate fake or virtual human face muscles to then be able to make it move. And it can open
Hmm.
its mouth, it can smile, it can frown, it can
Yeah.
do all these different things, and they do that. So look, it's an interesting approach. It's probably when it was started was probably the best approach. But the challenge is that you're talking about, well, there's a few things. So think about all the dynamicism of an individual's face. And think about, Moshaba, all of your emotions and expressions and all the little quirks and ticks that make up your face, and that make you you. And the people that know you and love you, they can see your mouth twitch just a little bit, and they'll
Yeah.
know what you're thinking about. We have that as people. It's this remarkable power that we have. Um, so all of that cannot possibly be encoded inside a single photo. Like, when I smile, I have sort of a crooked dimple on the left side of my face. Just
Uh-huh.
it's how I look. There's no way you would know that from a single photo of me with a relatively neutral face.
Exactly.
Or if we took a photo of just me smiling with my crooked smile, it doesn't know how I look when I frown. I mean, I try not to frown that much, but I frown
Hmm.
sometimes. So,
Yeah.
so it has no way of knowing that information. So there's just no possible way from basically pre-recorded limited amount of media to be able to then recreate that in 3D. Because they're just they don't have the information, so it's always going to look funny because when it smiles, when your avatar created in that way smiles, it'll look like a general human smile, like cool, but it's not going to, like it's not going to look like your smile.
Yeah.
And mine is not going to look like my smile, and that's a real problem. I mean, not only from the information they have, but also even from the approach of the rigging. Like, even all of our human face muscles are different. I mean, I suppose you could probably individualize that to some degree, but I mean, rigging is, I mean, I haven't seen any systems that are adaptable enough. I don't even know how you would do that, that are adaptable enough to literally figure out from a single photo everybody's muscles and rig it and dynamically rig it appropriately.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that could be done, but let's even say that could be done. There's still the issue of like, okay, cool. Now we've have your all of your face muscles, but how do we know what your smile looks like? And more importantly, how do we know what you look like right now? When you're interacting with someone right now and you're smiling right now, that information needs to somehow be carried across. I suppose with some of these, the approach I've been talking about, you could do like a puppeting thing where you take, you kind of read your motions right now on one end, and then you use that to puppet the avatar on the other end, kind of like animojis. That's what
Yeah.
animojis does, right? It looks at you, it says, "Oh, you're smiling. Okay, let's make the fox smile." And something like that. So you could puppet your own face. It's just for all the reasons I described, it's always gonna just not quite work. Certainly not for live interaction. And even, because it just doesn't, because it can't possibly have your full range of emotions and expressions. And so, look, we see a lot of folks taking that approach. And I get why they do it. But if you just look at consumer adoption and consumer acceptance, I don't think it's there. You mentioned the Samsung. What was it? It was the Galaxy 9. Was that the new
Yeah,
phone
yeah,
that
yeah,
had
yeah.
it? Yeah. Looks like a really cool. I haven't tried it yet, but looks like a really cool phone. And I saw their emoji feature, and look, it's interesting, but every single headline that I read about it was creepy, horrifying, like uncanny. Like these were the
Yeah,
words. And it's not that they did a bad job. It's just it's the limitations of that kind of approach. So we talked about cartoon approaches, not going to work for some reason. We talked about static media approach, not going to work for another reason. So we take a video approach, and this is what we think is going to work. So effectively, what we do is we take live video of the person's face. We effectively convert that video from 2D to 3D in real time. We and basically we're generating a model, we're texturing the model, we're doing all the blending, we're doing everything live, and that is really, really, really hard.
yeah,
Frankly, it's taken us a lot longer than to build it than we thought. It's taken us almost a year longer than we thought
oh,
to build it. We've effectively been working on this technology for all the pieces of the technology for about 2 years, and we thought we were going to launch it sometime last year, and just there are so many problems to
yeah, yeah,
solve when it comes to video. It sounds probably at surface level pretty trivial, but when it comes to you think about doing things dynamically, doing it live, if it's going to run at 30 frames per second, it needs to basically all the processing and everything needs to happen, everything within 33 milliseconds. So we're talking about everything from identifying the face in the first place to actually rendering the to rendering the face live in 3D with a head around it. I mean, because then there's all kinds of things too. Like you have the face, but you need to attach a head. Okay, we got to blend between the face and the head so it looks real.
yeah,
Okay, well with video, a piece of your hair could fall down into your face in the middle of it. Well, what do you do then? When you're in video, you move around, the lighting changes, the shadows change. What do you do then? There's all kinds of stuff, and also because it's live, it all needs to be done locally. You can't do it to the cloud and back, and have the processing happen in the cloud. So it all needs to happen locally, and it also needs to happen if you want this to be successful on a large number of devices. It can't be limited. So it's got to work on at least the majority, if not much more, of devices out there to be able to get this technology to be big and actually used by folks.
yeah.
So that what that means is you got to go down. Basically, our technology works on all AR. So we're starting on ARKit on iOS. We'll build for Android soon. But we work on all ARKit supported phones. So that means going down to iPhone 6S and SE. So the A9 processor, this is like several generations ago.
Hmm.
But getting it to be performant enough to work on phones that are, 3 years old. That was a real challenge. And to be honest, we weren't sure if we could do it. It was very much of a bet the company move. It was a bet that was a real challenge. Like we came close to running out of money. We
Uh-huh.
raised a bridge round from our current investors who believed in us and wanted to help us see this
Great.
vision through. It was a real challenge with a lot of ways that it could have failed along the way. But this is what we believe is that taking a video approach is the only way that's going to work, because what it does is, one other thing I forgot to mention, by the way, of the static media based approaches is another thing they have to kind of like fake is your teeth, your tongue, and your eyes. They have to fake those because those need to be moving on the 3D avatar. And if you just have a single image, right, like you can't then make them move. So they generate those, and we are especially highly sensitive to eyes and mouth, and kind of like seeing if those are kind of messed up. So anyways, with the video based approach, none of that's a problem. We don't have an uncanny valley problem,
Yeah.
because to tie it back to our notion of the word avatar, when you are video chatting with someone, let's say you're video chatting with me, do you say, "Oh, I'm looking at Misha's avatar," or do you say, "I'm looking at Misha"?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we look at persons.
Yeah, exactly. Right. When it actually looks like the person, you don't call it an avatar anymore. Even though, of course, you're looking at a representation of me, right? I'm not
Yeah.
actually in your computer screen. I'm actually, in another country, and so you don't, you're not looking at the real me, but you, because it looks like the real me, you don't describe it as an abstraction of me. You just describe it as me. And that's the level of quality that we're going for, because that's the level of quality that I think is going to be necessary. I mean, put it this way: think about Ready Player One, the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And imagine it if all of the avatars were just kind of cartoons that just sort of like flap their mouths up and down, or if they
Oh,
were, or if all of them had all the same expressions. When they smile, they all smile, and they all look the same. Like, that'd be terrible, right?
that'd
Like,
be
it just
creepy.
that wouldn't look right. And so that's why we start with video, because we're like, look, we don't need to create fake eyes to make the eyes move. We just used video, and the eyes are already inherently moving, in the video texture. Now, there's a lot of complications, like I said, to doing it this way. Skin and skin sampling is very difficult. The blending the face into the head is extremely difficult. The challenge is that face tracking is not perfect anywhere. In fact, this is what
Yeah.
most people kind of don't know or think about this. But even face tracking on the iPhone 10, right? It's got a true depth sensor. It's got 30,000 infrared dots on your face. So you got to think like, hey, it's perfect, right?
Yeah.
But between face tracking as well as ultimately rendering that into a 3D model, when you actually take a live view of a face and you put the even the iPhone 10 kind of like face model overlaid onto it, with the face tracking applied, it's still not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not. And again, there's nothing that anyone's doing wrong. It's just the limitations of the technology. Still, it'll be some time until face tracking is like perfect. And because of that, what that means is that, like, let's say, your data is telling you, oh, this is where the jawline is. You can never be 100% sure that that's exactly where it is.
Yeah.
It might be in a little bit, it might be out a little bit. Like, it'll be close, but things aren't exactly where you think they are, which means you got to build a lot of things to deal with that. If you want the end product to look good and to look, as real as possible, you need to deal with all that stuff. And so it's just like there's a lot of stuff you need to build that really ends up being kind of as much art as science, at this point. Like, we're
Exactly.
trying to deal with, like, okay, well, for example, the jawline is going to be, it's going to be perceived as too much in on some people, perfect
Yeah.
on some people, and too much out on some people. Okay, well, gosh, this kind of sucks. Like, how do we deal with that? So there's a number of things we got to do to, like, make sure it works for the people where it's too much out, without then, like, cutting off too much of the face of the people for whom it's too much in. Because you don't know in advance, how face tracking is going to look on an individual, and really even for a given individual, it'll still vary in different lighting scenarios, and just different days. Like, it can just behave in sort of funny ways. So anyways, There's a lot of stuff to do to make it work correctly on video. We weren't sure if we could do it, but here we are. And I think the reason we took the approach we did is a couple things. Number one, we just kind of analyzed the problem logically. And we're like, well, when I think about what we think the future looks like, I mean, we don't see it looking like cartoons. We don't see it looking like these kind of static media avatars. We see it like looking like effectively the quality of like video chat that we have now.
Yeah.
Well, like that kind of makes logical sense. And we were willing to kind of do a bet the company thing and try to do that. We knew up front the performance challenges. Like there's a lot of challenges we weren't aware of when we got started, but we knew performance would be an issue, and we're like, okay, well, look, let's just try to do it. The other thing is that you look at our history as a company. We have spent 6 years building products using video as a medium. So we know everything about video as a medium. Videos, there's a lot more that goes into it than people think about. Like just the different encoding ways to encode. There's different color spaces. There's all kinds of different things that we really know a lot about video as a medium. And so, I guess everyone has their natural biases based on their past experience. So our bias is always like, hey, well, can we do something with video? Because we know video and we like video, and let's do something with video. And so this led us down this approach. Just because we had that expertise, we're like, hey, this could actually probably work. Let's really try it this way.
Uh-huh.
So I think that was a part of it, which again, either mean we're either very right about it or we're very wrong. I mean, I can say that just because I see no one that I know of is also doing it the way that we're doing it. I mean, if we're successful, then I'm sure
Me
people
too.
will. But it's definitely a different approach based on our experience, as a company. So yeah, I mean, just a number of factors contributed to the way that we approach this problem and the reason why we believe it needs to be solved in this way. That's kind of how we ended up with doing it the way we do.
That's great. We'll surely put Mio download links in the description so our listeners can download Mio and
Sure.
experience the
Thanks.
features you mentioned. So, Mio is an augmented reality application which users can create AR avatars with and then share
Sure.
on their existing social network accounts, right?
Correct. Well, so it's actually useful to distinguish between there's the Mio technology
Yeah.
and then there's the initial Mio product. So basically the technology is all the tech that enables us effectively to take video of you, convert it from 2D to 3D in real time, sample the skin, use your real face, your real skin, your real voice, and render a 3D avatar of you. Now, I will say, by the way, that right now, when you look at the product, the bodies are kind of these like fantastical sort of one size fits all bodies. You could be a devil or a dancing banana or a fairy or, there's things you could be. And the reason we started that way is like, we just had to get all the face stuff and the head stuff correct first, before we could work on the body stuff. Because, the face is the most important part,
Exactly.
we believe. And so now actually we're already now, working on doing body customization, to where you can, be whatever kind of body type you want as well. And that's coming very soon. So really, there's the technology which enables all that. And then there is the app, which, I hope your listeners download and play with, and, please send us feedback because we always, want to improve. The app, that is our way of introducing the technology to the world. Look, we have also 6 years of experience of building consumer products, and so we're pretty decent at like knowing how to build consumer products, how to make it easy, delightful, beautiful, fun, like all the kind of things. And look, it's taken us a long time to develop those skills. Like our first product, super duper sucked like 6 years ago. It's just of course, like that's the way that you just learn as you go. But at this point, at this point, we're pretty good at it. And so, yeah, what the current product allows you to do is record your Mio, your AR avatar, record it in AR. And then basically what it produces is a video file.
Yeah.
And then now it's a video file. It's a universal format, so you can share it to all the existing social and messaging channels. And that's a fine way to get started. Because it works in single player mode. It means like it doesn't require your friends to already be on board in order for you to have a good time. So that's important when you're starting something from scratch.
Yeah.
It is very shareable via existing channels because again, when you're brand new, no one knows about you yet. And so you need to use the existing channels, for people to, share your stuff. This is like a very, very common tactic. And people can share these video files on all the places they already are and spread awareness of what you're doing. And so, it's a good way to get started. And, we just have a lot of experience building video creation products. So that's fine. If the app is successful, then we're going to double down on it, and you can start to do things like AR messaging, where now you can actually have, instead of sending a video, you can actually just send your Mio, and instead of sending a video of your Mio in your AR environment and you send a video, instead you'll send a Mio and your Mio will render in my environment. And then I'll experience and be able to interact with it here. And so that's how we kind of see the future of visual messaging, AR live streaming, AR video chatting. These are all kind of the same thing, just different kind of slightly different modes. But you can like have your favorite celebrity in your house with you live as their Mio, and they can be in a million of their fans' homes live at the same time, and I get to feel like this celebrity is here with me. I get to feel like I have them to myself, and they're in my home, and there's something kind of special about that. Video chat, same thing, so that's it's two ways, right? I'm AR chatting with you, you see me in your environment, and I see you in my environment, and again, it makes us feel closer together. So if our initial product is successful, then sure, we will continue to double down on those different kinds of AR communication modes. But there's a couple things. Number one, we can't possibly build every AR product that requires an avatar ourselves, right? There's so many different things that are needed. And B, like I'm trying to build a business where it's nice if the product does well, but that is not dependent upon our consumer product being a massive hit on the scale of Snapchat, Facebook, everything. Like, look, if that happened, of course, that'd be amazing, right? But it's really rare for that to happen. And so I'm trying to build a business that, that doesn't count on that happening.
Yeah.
So the way I look at it is the app is a great way to introduce the technology to the world. The app is a great way for people to become familiar, for developers, for companies to become familiar with like, hey, this is something new now. This is now a thing you can do. And ultimately, though, what I want to do is circling back to the technology is take the technology and make that available as an SDK to anyone who needs this kind of technology. And the reason that we want to do that is, I think, again, I'm probably preaching to the choir here in terms of the folks listening. Every product soon, in the next 5 years, maybe 10 years, is going to be a mixed reality product. It's not like a niche. It's like, it's going to be the new interface, just the way spatial computing, the way we interact with technology is not going to be in 2D on these flat screens anymore. It's going to be 3D. And that makes sense. Like, okay, cool. Like it's only a matter of when, for then. And so, like I said, not every product is going to require an avatar, but like a lot of them are. Maybe like a quarter to half of them are going to require you to look like something. And so, and given that we think that this approach that we're taking is the best approach, and the only way that's going to work, frankly, we think, then that means that a lot of developers and a lot of folks that build products are going to need this kind of technology. I can tell you from experience that 99% of them will not be able to or want to build our technology themselves. I mean, not only do we have like patents and stuff and we have like a massive head start, but also like it's taken us like 2 years,
Yeah,
over $1 million, over a dozen, world class experts working on it. Like, I mean, we're talking about a really difficult thing to pull off. So for someone that needs, some kind of avatar tech for their product, would they try to do what we've done and go through all that pain and build it themselves? Or do they want to really, really easily use ours? And I think that when you look at a lot of different kind of SDK businesses, the answer is usually developers want whatever is as easy as possible so they can
sure.
focus on the thing that they really want to focus on, which is not the avatar part is just kind of a requirement, but what they really want to focus on is the gaming part or the fashion part or whatever it is that their product does. And so I think an SDK is really where I want to take this. So it's kind of like the product is fun. I hope the product grows. I hope the product is super successful. But what I really want the product to do is make people familiar with our technology so that they come to us and they're like, hey, listen, guys, like, listen, folks, like we saw this tech. Is this something that we can use in our own product? And I believe this is going to be the case because this has already been happening.
Hmm.
We've been in like very kind of like a beta right now. Only like probably a few thousand people in the world right now even know about our technology.
Hmm.
Yet we've had a bunch of companies and developers approach us and be like, "Hey, we saw your thing. This is really interesting. Would we be able to license it?" And
Uh-huh.
honestly, that's kind of what made us think about an SDK in the first place. We started building this initially just to make better products ourselves, and then as we were working on it over a period of time, we realized, this is bigger than just one product, or just the one product that we want to build. This could be used in a lot of things, and that was kind of validated by folks coming in to want to use the tech. So, anyways, there's really a lot of that's ultimately what I want to do is I want it to be anytime you see a real person in mixed reality, that's our tech that's behind that. And yeah, so that's kind of the two sides of what we do. There's the core technology, which we will be launching as an SDK. And by the way, if there's any developers or folks building products listening, feel free to reach out to us. We can maybe put our email or something in the description
Sure,
with the
sure.
podcast,
Of course.
um, because we probably won't. It'll take us still some time to get the full SDK ready for everybody, so that it can be basically used without our supervision. There's still quite a lot of things we need to do, like the body personalization, like I mentioned. We need to do that. We need to port to a few more different platforms, so it can work wherever people need it to. So there's a few things we got to do, but we'll probably be opening it up on a more like kind of case by case level to folks to where we think it will be a good fit, to where it'll require as little as possible support from us, because they're a very technical team, or they're using a similar platform or something. We'd be happy to work with folks even before the full SDK comes out, just because we want more validation, and we want to make sure that we're building things correctly. Like, another reason that we built a product along with the technology is if you build technology in a vacuum, it's kind of hard to know that you're building the right thing. You got to build it for like a practical use case. And so we built our own product along with the technology to make sure we were building the right thing. And it wasn't theoretical. It was like, oh, shoot, for an actual product, you need this, you need that, you need to account for this. Anyways, that's the two sides of what we're working on.
Okay, so there's a debate right now, Misha, about whether AR should be a feature of the application on top of application's core, like for example Snapchat, or AR itself has the potential and can be the core of the application itself. What do you think about that?
So I kind of don't really agree with even the framing in the first place of that it's sort of a feature or sort of a niche. I think, and I think probably a lot of folks in this space think that that would be saying like mobile is a feature.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. Mobile is sort of it's a new way of experiencing technology and sort of and having an interface to that technology. So I don't, I view AR largely. I mean, I don't know if it'll be as big of a revolution as mobile. I think it might be close.
Mm-hmm.
Because mobile was, from desktop was pretty powerful, right? That put technology in the hands of billions of people for the first time, anytime that they needed. I mean, that was a major, major shift. I do think that AR will actually probably come pretty close because it's not gonna increase the number of people who can use the technology. That's not going to change, but it is going to very much increase their superpowers and the things that they can do. So I think it'll be close to as big a revolution as mobile. And so I think saying like, oh, is AR kind of a feature or part of it? I mean, Snapchat, again, what Snapchat has done has been incredible. They've been like, really like AR pioneers. They've done a
Yeah.
lot of really, really cool stuff, but it's not like inherently an AR product. It's not like natively AR. Like, you put it this way, you could remove all their AR features and they could still be a successful company. And I know that because they were, right? Like,
Yeah.
they were Snapchat. Look, they've been AR pioneers. They've
Yeah.
done a lot of really cool stuff in AR. And it's been really, really impressive and really inspiring to see what they do. But, AR is not like, I wouldn't call them like a fully AR product, because you could take AR out of their product and they could still be successful. And we know that because they have been, right. They were already successful and already doing well before they acquired Luxury and built in, the different masks and world lenses and all those things. So I think what they're doing with AR is super cool. I hope they continue to innovate in the space, but I don't think that it's AR native. And I don't think, their product has to be AR. I think we're going to see a large number of products that emerge where they could not exist without AR, which must mean inherently. And look, not all of them are going to be winners. Like, a lot of them are going to be stupid. Like, that's okay. We have a lot of
Yeah.
stupid. Like, there's a lot of stupid products across all kinds of things. And sorry, stupid sort of a pejorative term. Like, kind of like, silly or whatever. Like, you have fart apps and things like
Yeah,
that.
of
Like,
course.
fine. Like,
Yeah.
let people have fun. It's fine. But you're going to have some serious, really superpower things that can exist with AR that could not exist before. And so that's what, when I say like, oh, is it a feature of something? It's I don't really view it that way. It's just like it's just a new way of making technology. And I suspect that, I mean, look, I think most people believe that going forward, AR is going to be like, put it this way, in 30 years, do we still imagine people are going to be looking down at their smartphones in their pockets? Or are they going to have like AR glasses, or, really great AR glasses, or maybe even AR contacts by that point?
Yeah.
Or maybe even like, computer brain interface where it beams it directly into your brain. Like, at some point, I'm sure it will be. But the point is, like, at that point, the real and the virtual just get blended together, and there's all kinds of, like, what I always think about is, you know how we look back at like early websites right now, and
Yeah.
we're like, oh man, those are so silly. Like,
Uh-huh.
look at how bad the graphics are, and and look at how silly they look. And then now we're like, oh, look at, we're so sophisticated now with our fancy websites. That's the same way that AR developers, 20 years from now are going to look at us. Like, our stuff is going to look incredibly rudimentary and simple and silly, to folks in 20 years. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's just where we are, in the technical evolution. But I think it's really exciting, like, as an entrepreneur. Frankly, like, I started being an entrepreneur in 2012.
Hmm.
And that was kind of already right in the middle of the mobile revolution. What had started in maybe like 2007, 2008, really, like, kind of started to take off. I was in grad school at the time, and then I worked as a consultant afterwards. And so I came into entrepreneurship in the middle of mobile. So I was honestly already pretty late. Like, all the best stuff, and like the core fundamental things that needed to happen had already kind of been, if they weren't highly successful yet, they'd already been, in progress for quite some time. It's rare as an entrepreneur to get to work on something really at the cusp of when it's really taking off.
Yeah.
And by the way, like, I will take my hat off to all the people that have been working in AR for years. I mean, you included, right? You said you've been working in this for 7 years, is it? Like, that
Yeah,
long?
yeah, yeah. About 7 years
I
ago.
mean, that's amazing.
Before iPhone, we worked on Flash.
Yeah, I mean,
AR on
that's
Flash.
incredible. And there's folks that have been working in this space for a long time, and frankly, we would not have, this kind of, AR Kit, AR Core, like, all these things that allow, most developers to be able to participate without the pioneering work that's been done, over the past 10 years, 20 years, by folks like you, by folks like, many others, that brought us to this place. So that's, I mean, frankly, I feel kind of like a newcomer who's sort of encroaching on the space, like, uninvited, because, like, we're just kind of showing up when the party's already kind of getting good. So apologies for that, but,
Oh
we
no.
see, but we see a good opportunity. So it's rare as an entrepreneur to get to work on something, as it's like I remember reading an article in, I think it might have been 2015 or something. It was by a VC. I can't remember who it was. And they said, like, man, entrepreneurs are saying, like, I wish I could go back to like 1995,
Yeah.
and work on stuff on the internet then. You could do anything. You could be the person selling books. You could be the person selling shoes. You could be the person, like, posting photos. You could be the person doing maps. Like everything fundamental and core was available, and it did, again, at the time, nobody knew what was going to shake out. But looking back, it's like the world of opportunity was available.
Yeah.
And I feel like in 20 years, people are going to look back on this moment now and be like, man, I wish I could have been an entrepreneur in 2018. Everything in AR was available. Like, you
Yeah.
could do anything, and nothing was big yet. And so that's the excitement that I feel now. Is, I think that we're in this moment where it just appears likely that AR is going to take off from here. There's just enough investment, enough work, enough dollars, enough people. The technology is far enough in the space to where it seems like it's no longer sort of, like a hype cycle, but probably the start of something big. I mean, like, almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Hmm.
There's so many people and so many dollars in the space that it seems like probably something's going to come of it. And just, like, logically, right? Like, VR, I know VR has kind of its hype cycles and falls, and VR is, like, a little bit out of favor right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of logical. It's like, well, okay, people need an expensive, large piece of hardware to participate, in that. And if we've learned anything from mobile, it's that, the easier you can make it for people to participate at any time, the more successful it's going to be. And VR is largely going to be an at-home, so you don't run into things on the street. So let's even say that, I mean, eventually we may have, hardware that meld and combine AR and VR. Like, that's fine. I'm just talking about VR as we describe it now. Largely needs to be done in an environment. I mean, one of the kind of the funny parts about Ready Player One was these people were like running around in the street, like in the real world, like fighting the VR battle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, come on, someone's going to fall into a pothole or run into a sign. Like, what are we talking about here? This is a public safety hazard. Where are these kids' parents? This is dangerous. Anyways, but AR seems very logical. Like, the smartphone isn't necessarily like the best form factor for it. Like, I think everyone acknowledges that, and there are limitations to what you can do with the smartphone in AR, because just like, no one's going to walk, it's a very small field of view. No one's going to like walk down the street with their phone held in front of them. Like, you look silly and your arms get tired. Mm-hmm. And so no one's going to do that. But I think there are, in fact, real use cases that can use the phone as a device. In fact, I'd say that we may be one of them. I actually don't really view us as an AR company. I mean, like, we position ourselves right now as such because AR is like the dominant 3D medium, or mobile AR specifically is it has the largest install base of all the 3D mediums. But really, we're like a 3D graphics and computer vision company. Like, what we produce is agnostic. It could be in AR, it could be in VR, it could be in AR glasses, it could be in a light field projector. Like, we don't really care. It's a 3D object that can live in any 3D environment. We're focused on AR because I think that is going to be the dominant medium for some time. But anyways, to answer your question, yeah, I think that I would disagree with the premise that it's like a niche or kind of like a feature in the first place. It's just a fundamentally new way of engaging and interacting with technology, and everything is going to become AR, just like everything became mobile.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, Misha, volumetric video, do you consider it the next step for avatars, or it's completely something different?
No, I mean, look, it's okay. So yes, a volumetric capture can create an avatar. If we define avatar as sort of a 3D, rendering of a person, whether dynamic or static, then sure, volumetric capture is a way to do it. But again, that is like, it has even more challenges in terms of broad ability for people to participate. So volumetric capture is, largely it's done in 360 degree green screen rooms with an array of perhaps several dozen cameras around, or effectively it's got to be a bunch of cameras around. So, it's just one of those things that I know there's companies working on that. There's 8i. Microsoft has their capture studios that they're opening a bunch of them. I heard of some other one recently. I can't remember the name. And so I think there's real use cases there. But it's still something that like is a very high bar for people to participate in. I got to like go to a physical place. I got to have a session where they kind of like record me, and then they render me, and then they do all these things. And, and even then it's still just a static representation of me. Like, it's still a one-time capture that's not going to let you know how I look right now. It's going to let you know how I looked on that day in that studio. And just frankly, I'm not going to fly to LA or go to a capture studio every time I want to send a message to my friend. Like, that's not practical. You can't serve billions of people doing it that way. And so again, I think there's use cases. I think one advantage that volumetric capture has over what we do right now is we are focused on the face and the skin as an extension of the face specifically, because you got to think about the hardware that people have on them. So if we think, well, billions of people, they have smartphones on them. Okay, well, that's our capture device. then you think about the length of a human arm and just how far you can hold out the phone. It's
Yeah.
impossible to capture your full body using a smartphone. Also, because even the act of holding your phone means that at least part of your arm cannot be captured, right? Because it's holding the phone and it's out of
Yeah.
view. So so what that means is that like we when we do body stuff, we need to make it either that it's sort of a fantastical body, like or a one size fits all body, like we have now, or coming soon that you can customize your body and set it, any way you want. We might even be able to do something like sort of a one-time scan where someone walks around you using your phone, and then we can render your body, and then we can, animate, kind of rig and animate that automatically. There are things we can do. And furthermore, like, to the extent that wearables become more of a thing, if we can get access to that data, then we can use that data to animate, your body as well. So there's a lot of cool things we can do, but I will completely acknowledge that one limitation of our tech is we just cannot capture your full body with the way that you are moving right now and the clothes that you are wearing right now. It's just not possible with the hardware people are going to use. With volumetric capture, you can do that, right?
Yeah.
You can go and it can capture your movements and it can capture the clothes you're wearing, and that's all really cool. It's just, so I see that more as a thing for like celebrities and like promotions and things like that, where it's okay that it's a one-time capture. It's certainly not usable as like a communication medium because
Yeah. Yeah.
it can't possibly be live.
Totally agree.
But yeah, for promotions, like, it's cool. Now, it's funny, like whenever I go to sci-fi movies, like I'm always the worst because I sit there and I think about, I love movies and I love storytelling. And so I try and enjoy the movie just in and of itself. But I'm always sitting here thinking about, okay, if I were going to build that technology, like how would we do that? Like what would need to happen? And sort of, I think the canonical example of 3D avatars and volumetric capture is Star Wars, right? With the "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope," and the way they project themselves to each other. So it's funny. I not only watched all the scenes that I could in the Star Wars movies where those things happened, but also I read all the various analyses, the wiki pages on how do they do that. And in the Star Wars universe, in this fictional universe, they have effectively like little kind of flying and hovering drones that you have with you, and then it'll float in front of you, and it can capture you. You may have a few of them that can capture you from different angles, and then they can do that. And that actually would be fine. Drone technology isn't even close
Yeah.
to be able to do that, but I certainly could imagine a future in which we all had micro drones, like I'm talking very small, that you maybe fly out of the side of your smartphone or glasses and, kind of like make a small little cloud around you and capture you in real time. Sure. I mean, as a futuristic thing, maybe in 100 years or, I mean, who knows? It's sort of a fool's errand to project, timelines of technology, but certainly in the future, that will be a possibility at some point. But ultimately, when you think about, different kind of medium, I think it's useful to think about, okay, where is the camera? If you think about capturing and projecting humans, or anything really, where is the camera? How do we see this person? And so, it's with a phone, you think about, okay, well, that's the camera they have. What can we do given those limitations? With volumetric capture, you think about, okay, well, there's a lot of cameras, that's cool, but what are the limitations in terms of, portability and accessibility on a regular basis? So I think ultimately volumetric capture is cool, but I think it's a very much, at least as it is right now, without significant advances in technology, it'll be sort of a special purpose thing and less of a regular use by everybody thing.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, thank you very much, Misha, for joining the All Things XR podcast.
Of course, it's been a pleasure.